This series of maps depicts the changing ranges of the red wolf and coyote. Prior to the 1940s, no systematic attempts were made to document the ranges of these canids. The first few maps in this series are therefore reconstructions based on museum specimens, historical snippets, and molecular analyses. Scientific and historical opinions differ, and the early maps in this series show only one of several competing hypotheses about the taxonomic identity and pre-European range of the red wolf. This series of maps depicts the red wolf as a species that was historically distinct from the gray wolf. Some researchers argue, based on mitochondrial DNA evidence, that from the outset the red wolf was a hybrid mix between gray wolf and coyote. The listing of the red wolf as an endangered species was based on hypotheses similar to this reconstruction of its pre-1800 range. In this scenario, the red wolf was taxonomically distinct from the gray wolf and inhabited a range covering all of the southeastern United States as far west as central Texas, and may also have extended up the Atlantic seaboard to the St. Lawrence River. The red wolf's range overlapped with the coyotes in central and eastern Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Missouri, where the two species may have formed widespread hybrid flock. By 1880, wolf populations in the eastern U.S. had been decimated. They had been completely extirpated from the northeast and were sparse over much of the Midwest and central Atlantic seaboard, but were still common in the southeast. John James Audubon noted at this time that the long-legged, reddish-pelted wolves in central Texas were distinctive from those that remained in the southeast, inspiring him and John Bachman to designate them as a distinct variety of wolf named Canis lupus rufus. Subsequent research suggests that the wolves observed by Audubon in central Texas were members of a hybrid flock created by widespread integration from coyotes. By the First World War, the wolf was almost completely extirpated from the eastern U.S. except a remnant population in northern Alabama and sparse populations in the Ozarks, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas. Coyote integration into all but the Alabama population seems likely to have been occurring at this time. In the absence of wolves, coyote populations were expanding eastward by the early 20th century, starting in the Midwest. By the end of the Second World War, the relic populations of the red wolf had been exterminated, leaving only those in what had been its easternmost range where hybridization with coyotes was probably regularly occurring. Recent research suggests that red wolf ghost alleles may persist in populations of what are today considered to be coyotes across this last range of the red wolves. Coyotes continued their eastward expansion at this time, crossing most of the Midwest and starting to move eastward in the southern states. From this point forward, the range and history of the red wolf becomes more certain. That these wolves were affected by integration from coyotes at this time is unambiguously established, but whether the populations of red wolf originated from a historical ancestor or as a hybridization between gray wolves and coyotes remains scientifically unresolved. By the late 60s, the last red wolves had been nearly exterminated in Texas and the Ozarks. It was at this time that conservation efforts first began, with USDA officials selectively capturing individuals that retained what were believed to be pure red wolf features and exterminating those individuals that were obvious coyote-red wolf hybrids. By the 1970s, the last red wolves were removed from the wild populations found along the Gulf Coast in eastern Texas and western Louisiana. By this time, the coyote had expanded into the northeastern U.S. and Canada and across most of the southeastern U.S. Today, the coyote occupies all of the eastern United States. Red wolf colonies derived from the individuals captured in Louisiana and Texas were established in North Carolina. Red wolf ghost alleles have recently been documented in canids along the Gulf Coast, suggesting that some of the populations there may still deserve to be designated as wolves rather than coyotes.